Ferrari just brought an upgrade to Australia that could make Lewis Hamilton unbeatable, and almost nobody understands why. We are days away from the first race of the new era. New regulations, new power units, new aerodynamics. And hidden inside the SF-26 is a design that already showed nearly 12 km per hour more on the straights, and over 4,000 kilometers of testing without a major failure. That is not hype. That is dominance in preparation. But here's the part that should worry the entire grid. This is not just about speed. It is about control. A rear wing no one can easily copy. A diffuser that increases airflow efficiency by 15%. A power unit designed for extreme heat. And a 7-time world champion who has already adapted faster than expected. If this works in Melbourne, Ferrari does not just win the first race. They send a message to the entire season. And the real secret behind these upgrades is something we will uncover step by step. Subscribe now, because what Ferrari is hiding could redefine the Australian Grand Prix before the lights even go out. What Ferrari did in Bahrain was not a show. It was a warning. While other teams chased headlines with flashy lap times, Ferrari focused on something far more dangerous. Consistency. Over 4,000 kilometers completed across pre-season testing. No major mechanical failures. No dramatic stoppages. Just data. And in a brand new regulation cycle, that kind of mileage is not normal. It is strategic domination. But here is where it gets interesting. Ferrari never topped the timing sheets in a dramatic way. They kept a low profile. A poker face. And yet, internal telemetry revealed top speeds of 348 km per hour on the main straight. Top 3 in the entire field. Without turning the engine up fully. That changes the context completely. Because Albert Park rewards straight-line efficiency more than people think. Long acceleration zones. Heavy braking points. Overtaking dependent on exit speed. Now add this. During race simulation, Hamilton completed an 18-lap run with extremely controlled tire degradation. Linear drop-off. More stable than McLaren. Comparable to Red Bull. That is not just promising. That is calculated preparation for Sunday, not Saturday. But that is only the surface layer. Because the real foundation of this performance lies in the new 067/6 power unit. Smaller turbine. Reduced turbo lag. Sharper throttle response out of slow corners. And Australia has multiple traction zones where this matters more than raw top speed. Turn 3, Turn 11, Turn 13. Each one demands instant torque. And Hamilton's driving style has always relied on smooth, early throttle application. Now imagine a power unit built to respond instantly to that input. That is alignment. And alignment creates confidence. But confidence is dangerous if the car is unstable. Which is why Ferrari spent so much time validating aerodynamic correlation. Wind tunnel versus track. CFD versus real-world airflow. They were not chasing glory laps. They were chasing predictability. Because Melbourne is not forgiving. Street surface. Bumps. Wind shifts between buildings. If the aerodynamic platform collapses even slightly, lap time disappears. And this is where Hamilton's feedback becomes critical. He described the front end as aggressive. Responsive. But sensitive in high heat. That tells you Ferrari has pushed the aerodynamic balance forward. More front bite. More rotation. Which suits a driver who thrives on attacking corner entry. But it also means setup precision will be everything in Australia. Too much front. Rear instability. Too little. Understeer through sector 2. So Ferrari is walking a razor's edge. High reward. High precision. And here is the deeper layer most fans are not talking about. Hamilton is not adapting slowly. He is shaping the car around him. Reports from simulation runs showed he managed hybrid energy more efficiently than his teammate over long runs. That matters in Melbourne. Because Albert Park punishes poor energy deployment. Run out of battery before the final sector, and you are vulnerable. Deploy too aggressively early, and you suffer at the end of the straight. Hamilton has spent years mastering energy systems. Now he has a power unit that regenerates more efficiently than before. And that combination could be the silent advantage. But we are still building towards something bigger. Because all of this preparation, all of this hidden performance, all of this controlled testing, was done before Ferrari even installs the full Melbourne aerodynamic package. And that package is where things escalate. The diffuser, the pivot rear wing, the refined floor. That is where Ferrari stops playing safe and starts playing to win. Now we enter the part Ferrari did not want to show too early. Because what is coming to Melbourne is not experimental. It is approved. It is refined. And it is targeted specifically for Albert Park. Let's start with the diffuser. On paper, it sounds simple. Slightly expanded volume near the rear impact structure. More airflow extraction. Cleaner transition toward the rear wing. But in reality, this is where Ferrari may have found a regulatory sweet spot. Internal analysis suggests up to 15% more airflow efficiency in medium-speed corners. And medium-speed corners dominate Sector 2 in Australia. That is not random development. That is circuit-specific optimization. More rear stability mid-corner. More confidence on throttle application. More controlled tire wear across a stint. But here's where it becomes dangerous. The diffuser does not work alone. It feeds the rear wing. And Ferrari's pivot central rear wing is unlike anything else on the grid. When activated, the upper flap rotates from the center, not the edge. That creates a significantly larger airflow gap compared to a traditional system. In Bahrain, that translated into gains of up to 12 km per hour on the straight. But the straight line speed is only half the story. The real advantage is in the transition. Instead of snapping back into full downforce mode abruptly, the system rebuilds load progressively. That means stability under braking. Hamilton was reportedly braking meters later into turn 1 during simulation runs. Later braking means deeper overtaking potential, especially into turn 3 in Melbourne. Now combine this. Expanded diffuser increasing rear stability mid-corner. Rear wing reducing drag aggressively on exit. Hybrid system optimized for high temperature deployment. This is not 3 separate upgrades. It is one integrated concept. But there is another layer most people are ignoring. The refined floor. Ferrari optimized the rear tire wake management with new slot geometry, reducing dirty air turbulence from the rotating rear wheels. Why does that matter? Because rear tire overheating was one of Ferrari's subtle weaknesses in hot conditions. And Australia will be hot. If they have improved airflow around the rear tires, degradation becomes more predictable. Predictable degradation equals strategic freedom. And strategic freedom wins races. But here comes the psychological dimension. Hamilton has already said the car feels like it carries elements of his driving DNA. That is not a casual statement. That suggests the front-end responsiveness matches his preference. The braking stability matches his style. The energy deployment matches his rhythm. In other words, this is not just Ferrari building a faster car. It is Ferrari building a Hamilton-compatible weapon. And that changes internal dynamics. Because if Hamilton extracts maximum performance immediately, if he qualifies on the front row, if he controls tire degradation over a long stint, then Ferrari does not just score points. They establish hierarchy from race 1. But there is still a risk hiding inside all of this. Rear tire degradation showed signs of drop-off after extended runs in Bahrain heat. The aerodynamic platform is sensitive to crosswinds. And Melbourne is known for unpredictable gusts. If wind disrupts diffuser efficiency, if the pivot wing becomes unstable in turbulence, everything tightens. And that is what makes this first Grand Prix so critical. Because the SF-26 is not conservative. It is precise. It rewards a driver who can feel micro changes in balance. And few drivers in history read subtle balance shifts like Hamilton. So now we stand days away from lights out. Ferrari arrives with a car potentially 4/10 faster than its Bahrain baseline configuration. Not because of one massive revolution, but because every piece supports the other. The power unit feeds the wing. The wing feeds the diffuser. The diffuser feeds stability. Stability feeds confidence. And confidence feeds execution. And in Formula 1, execution in the opening race can define the psychological tone of an entire season. So the real question is not whether Ferrari improved. They clearly did. The real question is whether the rest of the grid fully understands the scale of what Ferrari has connected together. Because if they underestimated it, Melbourne will not be a close battle. It will be a statement. But now we arrive at the part nobody inside Ferrari wants to say out loud. Because performance is one thing, pressure is another. And Australia will not just test the SF-26. It will test Lewis Hamilton inside a Ferrari, under real race conditions, for the first time in this new era. And that changes everything. Testing is controlled, predictable, safe. Melbourne is none of those things. It is the first Grand Prix. New regulations, fresh expectations, global spotlight. And the smallest mistake becomes amplified. Now think about this. Hamilton has spent years mastering energy management systems that reward patience. Lift and coast. Precision deployment. Corner exit discipline. The new 067/6 power unit regenerates more efficiently under braking. That suits him perfectly. But Melbourne is not just about saving energy. It is about choosing when to attack. Deploy too early defending into turn 3. You are vulnerable on the next straight. Deploy too late. You miss the overtake window entirely. And here is where Ferrari's integration becomes critical. Because the pivot rear wing does not just add top speed. It changes overtaking geometry. With up to 12 km/h advantage when activated, Hamilton can position the car differently before braking zones. He does not need to dive late. He can control the approach, control the braking phase, control the apex. That is psychological pressure on the driver ahead. And pressure forces mistakes. But let's go deeper. Because the diffuser expansion increasing airflow efficiency by roughly 15%, does more than add grip. It stabilizes rear load mid-corner, which means Hamilton can rotate the car earlier. Earlier rotation means earlier throttle. Earlier throttle means earlier deployment of that optimized hybrid mapping. And suddenly the overtake begins before the straight even starts. Most fans watch the straight. The real move begins at corner exit. And Ferrari has engineered exactly for that phase. Now consider qualifying. Albert Park rewards confidence in medium speed direction changes. If the aerodynamic platform remains stable under gusty conditions, if the front end bite remains predictable in high temperature, Hamilton can attack. And Ferrari has already demonstrated top speeds of 348 km/h in Bahrain without fully revealing their hand. Imagine that combined with fresh Melbourne specification power delivery. Pole position becomes realistic. And starting at the front in Australia changes race control entirely. Because clean air protects the tires. Clean air stabilizes temperature. Clean air protects battery management. Everything cascades from that initial position. But here is the hidden tension. If Ferrari dominates qualifying, if Hamilton leads early, the strategic spotlight turns brutal. Rear tire degradation after extended heat cycles was visible during Bahrain simulations. If Australia becomes a two-stop race under extreme temperatures, can Ferrari maintain consistency deep into the final stint? Because this car is optimized, precise, sharp, but sharp tools demand perfect handling. And the Australian Grand Prix will not forgive even small strategic errors. So this first race becomes more than points. It becomes validation. Validation of the diffuser concept. Validation of the pivot wing legality and durability. Validation of the new power unit thermal mapping. And most importantly, validation of Hamilton's transition into the 2026 Ferrari era. If he delivers immediately, if he extracts the full performance window, if he proves that this car truly carries his driving DNA, then something shifts across the paddock. Not just performance metrics. Belief. Belief inside Ferrari. Belief inside Hamilton. And doubt inside everyone else. And in Formula One, belief can be as powerful as horsepower. So as the countdown to Melbourne continues, as the freight lands, as final simulations run overnight in Maranello, one reality becomes impossible to ignore. Ferrari did not arrive at this first Grand Prix hoping to compete. They arrived expecting to control. And when the red lights go out, we will discover whether the SF-26 is simply fast, or whether it has already quietly positioned itself as the benchmark of the new era.